Alright guys, this is Jerningham here. This will tell you how bad the infection rates are across the UK. It says coronavirus cases by 3,497 on Saturday in the UK. And it'll tell you some parts of the UK, not just one place. But anyway, I'm going to put the video on now. So, just trying to think. Try and sort this out. Right.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to Breakfast with Rachel Burton and Roger Johnson.
And our headlines today: a stark warning that cases of coronavirus are growing in the UK as 3,500 infections are recorded for the second day in a row.
The last chance to party for some in the final weekend before new restrictions are introduced.
What is going on this phone?
I think that everyone's going wild because they want to have the last party because everyone's terrified of going into another lockdown.
On with Corona 1 now.
This phone is being stupid. Give me a second.
Rescue dogs are brought in to help search neighbourhoods on the west coast of America destroyed by wildfires.
After the controversy, Britannia ruled the airwaves at the last night of the proms.
Good morning, it's back with a bang. The Premier League returns with a 7-goal thriller at Anfield. The newcomers Leeds pushed champions Liverpool right to their limits.
Good morning. Persistent heavy rain for western Scotland today. Most other areas dry.
Hold on a second.
Warmer than yesterday, and then there's a burst of September heat on the way over the next couple of days. All the details coming up.
Need to.
Good morning, it's Sunday the 13th of September. Our top story, there is fresh concern over the growing
Trying to
spread of
sort this
coronavirus.
bloody phone out.
3,000 cases were recorded in the UK on consecutive days, and it's the first time it's happened since mid-May.
The phone will not stay where it is for some bloody reason.
Tonight, and many people took the opportunity to enjoy a night out before new COVID restrictions come into force tomorrow. As Simon Jones reports.
A busy Saturday night in Liverpool. The last chance for large groups to meet before the so-called rule of 6 comes into force.
Right.
In England, only 6.
So it's taking me so long to just sort the phone out, but
situations.
This weekend, everyone is just going wild, which makes zero sense, but I think that everyone is going wild because they want to have the last party because everyone's terrified of going into another lockdown.
There's 4 people in our house, and 4 people in their house, so it should be 8. The majority of people have got 2 kids, the majority of couples have got 2 children, so it's preventing 2 families getting together.
Coronavirus isn't going to stop this weekend, it's still going to be here. It's going to haunt, so why wait till Monday? There's going to be a lot to do it now.
In Soho in central London, there's concern at the rate that coronavirus is spreading.
The on and the one now.
trying to sort this fucking thing out.
Second wave that everyone's talking about.
It's taking me a long time to just sort this video out.
And you do see, when you go to places like this, you do see big groups of people.
Certain areas are not monitored, like house parties, for example. You know, that's down to responsibility, you know, for the host of the house party.
Hopefully people listen. I don't know if they do though. Hopefully, yeah.
From Monday, police in England will have the power to fine people who don't stick to the rule of 6, £100 for a first offence, doubling each time to a maximum of £3,200. The big question is whether police initially will try an approach of engagement or whether they'll move straight to enforcement. In England, the rule of 6 will apply indoors and outdoors. In Scotland, the 6 can only be from 2 households and young children aren't counted. In Wales, up to 30 can still meet outdoors. This is why the government is acting. There were 3,497 new coronavirus cases recorded in the latest 24-hour period. That means the average number of new cases reported per day in the last week is just over 3,000. 9 deaths were reported of people who died within 28 days of a positive COVID-19 test. And that means on average in the last week, 11 deaths were announced every day, taking the total number across the UK to 41,623. In Scotland, new cases diagnosed have hit a 4-month high. A message from politicians: keeping coronavirus under control requires care and vigilance from all of us. Simon Jones, BBC News.
Sir John Major and Tony Blair have joined forces to criticise Boris Johnson's plans to override part of the Brexit withdrawal agreement.
Writing in the Sunday Times, the former Conservative and Labour Prime Ministers say his move is shocking and irresponsible. Let's find out more from our political correspondent Helen Catt in our London newsroom. Helen, why do they object so strongly to this particular move by the government?
Well, they voiced some of those concerns we've heard in recent days about what it would do to Britain's international standing. But they also really pick apart Boris Johnson's justification for doing it in quite strong terms. So he has said that it is a necessary move to protect the integrity of the UK and the peace process in Northern Ireland. Well, they say that they disagree, that's in fact, it imperils the Good Friday Agreement instead of protecting it. They also pour scorn on this idea that this is a serious misunderstanding that's only just become apparent. They say that is a nonsense, for it was the Prime Minister himself who negotiated it. And of course, it was changes to the arrangements for Northern Ireland within the withdrawal agreement that Boris Johnson said had made his version of the withdrawal agreement acceptable, whereas Theresa May's, he said, was not. So there is that. Now, this is not standard practice for former Prime Ministers to come out and be so openly critical. So that is significant, and these are two figures who were big figures in the Northern Ireland peace process too, so that too is significant. But they have been pretty vocal in recent years, particularly on the Remain side of the Brexit debate, so I don't think this is going to be the sort of intervention that's really going to be unduly worrying Downing Street this morning or persuading exchange course.
Thank you very much. That's Helen in London.
Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe, who's serving a 5-year sentence in Iran, is due in court later today to face a new charge. She was arrested in 2016 after being accused of spying, which she denies. Nazanin's husband Richard says she's being used as a political pawn.
Thousands of women are enduring the unimaginable anguish of having to give birth alone due to COVID-19 rules, according to a group of MPs. More than 60 of them are now demanding NHS trusts lift their ban on partners at the bedside during labour, which they say has left many women devastated. Last month, Health Secretary Matt Hancock urged maternity unit bosses to allow partners to attend scans and the baby's birth.
Residents in Melbourne in Australia are experiencing some of the strictest and longest coronavirus lockdown measures in the world as the state of Victoria continues to work to contain a second wave of COVID-19 infections. From tonight in Victoria, some lockdown measures will ease, but they won't apply to the state's capital. There, people can still only leave their homes during daylight hours to exercise, to shop for essential items, and to undertake essential work.
Search and rescue teams have been brought in to help find dozens of people missing in Oregon as deadly wildfires continue to sweep through the US West Coast. Officials there say they are preparing for mass fatalities.
The blazes have burnt millions of acres, destroyed thousands of homes, and killed at least 25 people, as Catherine Armstrong reports.
The city of Portland, almost invisible under a thick layer of smoke, the result of deadly wildfires that have been raging in the west coast for weeks. Meteorologists on Saturday said that the air quality here and in neighbouring states was the worst in the world, and warnings are in place in Canada as the smoke travels north. Elsewhere in Oregon, these residents are now relying on the kindness of strangers after having to flee their homes, unsure when they'll be able to return and what they'll find when they get there.
To be honest, if we have to rebuild, we have to rebuild. If we don't have to rebuild, we still have so much cleanup to do because of the ash. Because when we left, like I said, the last time we pulled out, there was almost 2 inches. So it is what it's going to be, and I am just thankful that we're alive, we're together.
Oh my God.
And scenes like this are what they've escaped. This, part of just one of the more than a dozen blazes in the state that firefighters are working to contain. More than 900,000 acres have burned in Oregon this week alone, more than twice the average area burned over the last decade. Officials are warning the death toll could rise significantly in the coming days. Meanwhile, in California, where some of the largest fires the state has ever seen have been burning,
Got a full of
there has
cold.
been some cause for optimism.
It's a tissue.
A break in the hot, dry weather on Saturday enabled firefighters to make important headway in containment efforts. It's hoped that in the coming days, parts of the west coast will see the first signs of rain in weeks, bringing some relief to a desperate situation. However, officials are warning that some fires are likely to continue burning until winter arrives. Catherine Armstrong, BBC News.
Well, it's a staple of the classical music calendar, but for the first time in its history, the last night at the proms saw no flag waving, no mass sing-along inside the Royal Albert Hall.
The show, as I'm sure you know, was swept up in controversy after the BBC reversed its decision not to sing Royal Britannia and Land of Hope and Glory. Our arts editor Will Gompertz was among those watching.
After the possible omission and then the indecision, followed by the controversy and the accusations of wetness prompting perhaps the U-turn, Britannia did finally rule the airwaves. And so tradition prevailed over those who thought the words too imperialistic for this day and age. But it wasn't quite business as usual at this year's last night. It was a proms without promenaders, with a pared-down, socially distanced BBC Symphony Orchestra and barely a flag or a hat in sight. Some blamed, wrongly, she said, any suggested changes on the night's Finnish conductor, 11deathsuk, who started the programme with Mozart's Marriage of Figaro. She said she simply wanted to use music to bring people together. The talking point of the night is likely to be composer Erilyn Wallen's radical reworking of Hubert Parry's prom favourite Jerusalem, to which she introduced dissonance and blues references, a tribute, she said, to the Windrush generation of migrants who came to Britain. It was sung by the South African soprano Golda Schultz. It has been a very strange year. The pandemic prom's quite different without a live audience, particularly last night's Last Night, in which even Edward Elgar's Land of Hope and Glory seemed subdued, unlike some of those watching on from home. Will Gompertz, BBC News.
Well guys, I hope you all enjoyed that video. I'm sorry I was coughing and spluttering a lot because I've got a bit of a cold and now I feel a bit rough. Well, not a lot rough, but anyway. Thanks for joining the video and see you in the next one. Peace. Oh. Yeah.